Greetings folks, Pockets here with another Pockets quick tip for EVE Online. Today we're going to look at creating routes and how to manage the route management tool and how to use that to navigate space in whichever way you need to do. I've seen this come up a few times where players don't know some of the tricks and end up taking routes through, say, low sec as a new player, not realizing that that's A, probably not a good thing to do until you know what you're doing, and B, that you can avoid it just by using the route tool. So let's just go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and find a null sec system, one that I know the name of just offhand, and we're going to set a route to it, and then we're going to play with it. So we're going to set destination. There you go, 35 jumps through a bunch of different space. So you can see, first thing we're going to look at is you look at the colors. Green down to yellow is your high sec, various security levels. So there's Billy 0.5 system, Amatin's a 0.6, yellow is Jun's at a 0.5. Your orange colors are low sec, and you can see there's different shades to tell how low they are. And then your red colors are null sec, so this is still actually 0.100. Here we go. So this is still actually kind of orange. Null sec starts there, and then into cloud ring. So 36 jumps or 35 jumps. You can see it takes me through a little bit of high sec. It goes straight into low sec as quick as it can, and that's because right now I prefer less secure. So this is for folks that don't want to go to high sec very much because their security status is bad and they're going to get shot by the police when they enter high sec. So you can use this. You can set a penalty as well. I don't play with this too much because I do a lot of manual setting up when I'm flying in dangerous space, but you can adjust that so it keeps you more or less in safe for your low security if you're a pirate or scallywag of some other flavor. So the next option is prefer shorter route, and this is what a lot of people go on because they want to get to where they're going as fast as they can. So you can see here, it just doesn't matter what security it is. I can do the same thing in 23 jumps. It goes straight to this low sec system and then straight in. So this is the shortest possible route. It's kind of a nicer balance, and that's cool. So if you don't care about where you fly, this is the quickest, and this is again what most newer players end up with. And so for me to get from here to Udi, I'd fly through all this low sec as well. The last thing you can do is safer path, and this is where it tries to keep you in high sec. So this route, it's 31 jumps, but you can see I've got much more high sec, only 2 jumps into low sec, and then this is the black, or 3 jumps in low sec? Yeah, 3, 4, 5. So there's null there. So this tries to keep you in as little dangerous space as possible. Another thing we can try just before we go, we're going to try some JITA, because there might be, this is a little bit more relevant to newer players. So if we set destination here and we go quickest route, safest route is 15 jumps. And if we go shortest, is it going to show us something? Yeah, so you see shortest route is also 15 jumps, so that you got to watch that. But we go through this one low sec bit here. Now, being that this is the shortest route between some section of Glente space into Caldari space and then to JITA, there's a very good chance the gate on this side, so jumping into this low sec and out of this low sec, are camped at any given time. So you'd want to avoid even that one little jump. So going on safest, here, same number of jumps. Usually it'll be more jumps if you're on safest route, but we just go a different route. Now there is, like Udema is usually pretty bad for gankers, so be careful with freighters and stuff as you're coming through this, especially Udema and a couple others in this area here. I don't do much freighting, so I don't usually have too many troubles, but I know for sure Udema is usually a bit busy. I see dead stuff there all the time. Other options. So we prefer less secure. We can take 25 jumps and go through low sec as well. That's pretty fun. But I usually keep it on this when I'm doing high sec stuff, and then when I'm doing low sec stuff, I'll just use shorter because getting to from point A to point B is important. What else can we do? So autopilot activates. So if you click this, you'll autopilot through. I don't recommend that unless you know what you're doing. There are some places where you just don't want to autopilot in certain conditions, and you definitely don't want to autopilot if you're going through low sec and null sec. If you're hauling anything, if the only time I autopilot, I have 2 instances where I autopilot. One, I'm in a shuttle and I just want to get from point A to point B, and even that has bit me in the past. Or 2, I'm in my travel interceptor and I just want to get from point A to point B, but never have I autopiloted in low sec or null sec. And I'll show you my trick for autopiloting to, say, Dodixie. because autopiloting to Dodixie, especially in a pod, and in a shuttle for sure, but definitely in a pod, is just asking to get blown up. There's people that just blow up autopiloting pods coming into Dodixie for fun. So I'll show you how I deal with that at the end as a little tidbit. But let's look at some other options here. So show route path in space. If you have this checked, you'll get a line in space between the two stars. I don't know if I can show you that here. I probably can. We'll undock while we talk. But it actually shows you lines in space. And those lines are your next sort of section of the route. So we'll see if we can find it here. We undock in my new Stratios, a little bit of foreshadowing for an upcoming video. So let's see, if we look at this, it should be there. And I just want to zoom out so my ship's not in the way. Yeah, I don't see it. But usually, the line probably goes straight away from here, which is why we don't see it. Let's warp to that. But you'll see lines in space. It may be that it needs to render in because I had it turned off for a while and it's just not showing at the moment. That's okay. It's not that important. I don't find it that useful, so I turn it off just to save bits. Another thing we can do is go down here. Avoid systems where pod killing has recently occurred. So, especially if you're traveling in more dangerous space, you can use this option. So if we click on that, we get a warning saying it can make extremely long routes because, and in this case, the reason it shows this is because there is no route where the system has decided that there is no safe route that we can use. So that one doesn't work. So this is what I've seen most of the time using that one, so I don't ever use this. Avoid systems on your avoidance list. I don't think I have anything on my avoidance list right now, but because I cleared it all out. There we go. There's the line right here. So this line here is part of my route. You can see, I zoom out, we go from wherever this is, which is probably another system, because we're going to jump to this gate. But you see we go down, and off into the distance. That's our path, that's our route we're going to take going to Jita. So each one of these stars is a system in our path. And that's pretty cool to see. I usually have that turned on. I've had that turned on. I turned it off the last couple of weeks, but I think I might just leave it on. It doesn't seem to give me a performance increase if I turn it off, so. Avoidance list. So you can uncheck and check this. I don't have anything on my avoidance list. I can show you that. Not in here, avoidance list, so there's nothing. We're going to do the avoidance list in a minute. Disable auto point at each waypoint. I keep this checked now because I've come up with a new system when I'm doing autopiloting, especially in high-sec, due to losing a very expensive pod in Dodixie. Well, 40 mil, it's not very expensive, but I've now upgraded it to a 100 mil pod. So we'll show you. So basically what this does is if you have, so for instance, we're going to Jita, we start here, this is our waypoint. But let's say here in Castiganen, if we add it as a waypoint and optimize route, which is the next thing I'll show you. So now you can see we have this waypoint. So what's going to happen is if I turn on autopilot, which I won't do, we're going to jump all these systems, but once we hit Castiganen, or whatever, how you ever pronounce that, Casey, autopilot will stop. And that's awesome. So what I do with this is, let's say I'm going to Dodixie, and Dodixie is right here. If I'm going to Dodixie, I'll pick one of these two, usually Ermi, but Botane works as well. And I will show info. Not show info, hang on. Yeah, show info, and then somewhere in here, yeah, it just didn't show up, there we go. And you find yourself like one of these that you know you can dock at. So I think this one I can dock at. If I go to services, yeah. And what I'll do is I will add this as a waypoint. And then optimize my route. And what's going to happen is I'm going to go here, I'll warp to Botane and dock up. That way, I make this last jump at the controls. It's that simple. So this is like a little safe little trick. You don't want to autopilot very much into Dodixie because you start far off the gate and people are just going to blow you up. It's just how it is. Lots of people in Dodixie. Sometimes I'll usually set it even 2 jumps back and do the last 2 jumps manually depending on how expensive of a move I'm doing. So there's that. Another thing you can do, and you've seen me do it now, is the clear all waypoints, which is great. Boom, clears it all. For the next bit, we're going to look down here. So we know now we've cleared all our waypoints. We're going to go ahead and set up our exploration path like I usually do. So if you look down at my chat, I'll clear the marquee just so you can see it. If we set destination and add waypoints for each of these pieces, So you can see right now, to do this clearing just in the order I have it here, it's 36 jumps. Looks like this. If I go down and I optimize route, it's 24 jumps to hit each of these endpoints. So that's nice. So once you've added a series of waypoints, then you can optimize route. And this is all affected by your settings here. So preferring safer, shorter, whatever. So if we then go like this and optimize route, it'd probably be the same because this is all in the same region. It's all in Evershore or in this area, Galente space. So that's fine. Another thing you can do is once you've done all this, if you have a certain path you want to go, like maybe I want to end on Colser, because Colser is right next to home, so that'd be a nice place to end it, right? So you can go down to manage route, and we saw our avoidance list, and I'll show you that in a second. If we go to waypoints, you can see, here we go. So this is where we are. We're going to hit these 2 jumps, we're going to hit Colser, and then these 4 jumps, and this is our waypoint, and so on down the line. I can just take Colser, drag it to the bottom. Did it go? There you go. So now, from where we are, we're going to hit these 4 jumps, and down, and we're going to end at Colser, which means we're close to home. So you can just click, you can shuffle these around all you want after that. I usually optimize route and then move the 1 or 2 that I need to, just because it gives me the most optimal I can do with what I want. So that's pretty cool, and you can move any of these around. You know, I can move this down to spot 2. We're going here. So there we go. And yeah, so it's that simple. Optimize route, move Colser down, and we're done. Move it down 1 more. Or move S-tier up. That works too. So there we go. So that's how you can manually manage your route. And again, I do this pretty much every time. You can also, which is the way I usually use it, but because I was playing with it, I didn't have that. If you do this, you just see your destinations, which makes it easier to manage your list, and you don't really need to see all the individual jumps if you don't want to. So I like that as well. And there's an optimize button here as well you can sometimes use. Avoidance list. This is pretty simple. If you want to avoid a system, like let's say I don't like Chore. For some reason this system, I hate it. So I'm going to right click on it and go to avoid Chore, and it pops it into my avoidance list, and now you can see it's no longer listed as a waypoint in here. I go to Alcan and then nothing. And then you can see I can change that. I can add it back in by clicking this time. And remove that just so I can keep an avoidance list, but if I want to ignore it, I can just do it with a quick tick of the box. Shaves 2 jumps off of our path. Don't show this again. I had that cleared. There we go. And then just to remove it, you can right click and you can go show in map browser if you want. Do not avoid Chore in the solar system, and away you go. So it's that simple. So if you want to try to avoid Udema, you can add that to your avoidance list, see how the route looks, and then leave it there. And then if every time you set a path to Jita, as long as that box is ticked right here, you will avoid Udema on your way, and so on. So play with this. Again, for us in the high sec groups, it's better to keep the safety on. The most dangerous part of low sec and null sec are those first jumps out of high sec into those systems, or out of low sec into null sec, or wherever the connection is, when you're jumping from one security level to another. That's your most dangerous point, because people will camp that as people come through that one bottleneck, funneling all the high sec people going into low sec through that one gate, and people will camp that usually. So that first initial jump into low sec from high sec for us is the most dangerous thing. And the same is true going low sec into null sec. Now null sec is special, but typically you want to try to avoid that if you're not ready for it. So there you go. So this is a nice easy way to use the navigation tool. I hope you guys found that helpful. If you did, don't forget to subscribe for more tips coming up in the future. I'd like to get the channel up to that 1,000 subscriber threshold so I can monetize the channel and keep this ball rolling. I appreciate all the support I've gotten on the channel and this series so far, and really appreciate all of you guys. You know who you are. So as always, take care, fly safe, and I'm out of here.